Welcome in, everybody, to your UFL Weekly Newsflash. I'm your host, Matt Sparks from NFL Fan Blitz, and we're going to run down some of the news in the UFL today. Of course, you know that this off-season, the XFL merged with the USFL, making the new 8-team Super League, the United Football League, the UFL. Now, we've seen the logo, we've seen the advertisements, and we're all very excited for the season coming up. If you want to know about some of the best position groups in the UFL, be sure to watch our channel on Strim/FanBlitz Network, right? So, Strim.com/FanBlitz Network. You can also find it on our Twitter page, Arrowhead First, right? That'll keep you up to date on everything you need to know about the USFL, XFL, the old USFL, the old XFL, the NFL, IFL, everything else, right? We have all the content you could possibly want from spring leagues and from the major leagues. All right, so we're kicking off today with Kickoff, right? So Kickoff for the new merged UFL is March 30th. And what a game that's going to be, as the Birmingham Stallions of the USFL, yes, the USFL Champions, will be taking on the Arlington Renegades, who are the champions of the XFL in 2023. And so that's going to be quite the matchup. But it looks like neither of those teams will have the quarterback that started that championship game for them, at least not as of right now. Now, we'll get into that in a second, but we are looking forward to this kickoff game and what it represents for the future of this new league, right? So people were hoping that the new league merged from two 8-team leagues, might be a 16-team league or at least a 12-team league, but no, they scaled it back to 8 teams, right? They reset up the training hubs in Arlington, but each team will actually be playing in their home market, unlike the USFL last year. So that's going to be important. Of course, the 8 teams that survived from the USFL side, you have the Memphis Showboats, my personal favorites. Woo! You have the Birmingham Stallions, last year's champions. And then you have the Michigan Panthers, who play at Ford Field in Detroit. And then you have a team coming from the XFL to take over that spot occupied by the Houston Gamblers. They are now going to be the Houston Roughnecks, but they're going to compete as part of the USFL division. On the other side, you have the XFL Conference, and those XFL teams that survived, you might be surprised to know that a couple of them are from Texas, right? So Arlington, last year's champs, they're still around. San Antonio Brahmas, who had decent attendance throughout, they're still around. And then, Anyways, then you have the St. Louis Battlehawks, by far the best attended spring league team. And then you, of course, have the land of lemons and beer snakes, right? You have the DC Defenders, who was probably the most engaging fan experience at the stadium last year. You had them throwing the lemons on the field every time there was a bad call. You had the beer snake that became legendary in XFL lore. And so it's going to be interesting watching these 8 teams compete. And I know we're all very, very excited. The USFL has already held their dispersal draft and their super draft, and so any free agents left out there are free agents that can pretty much be signed by any teams. And we'll get into some of those free agents here in a little bit, but let's talk about some of the players that have moved on, right? They've had the XFL and the USFL have had a few players head up north to the CFL searching greener pastures, and one of those is running back DeAndre Torrey. If you'd like to know more about DeAndre Torrey, please visit our YouTube page or watch our channel on Strim.com for our draft room episode with him coming out of the University of North Texas. All right, so next up, we're talking about Birmingham. Is Birmingham ready to repeat? The Birmingham Stallions made a number of key re-signings this offseason, including quarterback Jamar Smith, who coincidentally was also on our show Draft Room, episode 10 of season 1. So feel free to go check that out, once again on our YouTube page or on Strim.com. So, Jamar Smith was actually the Birmingham Stallions quarterback in year 1 of the revived USFL, when Birmingham won that championship. Alex Magoo took over that job in year 2 and ran with it, becoming the USFL MVP. But now Jamar Smith is back out of Louisiana Tech. Louisiana Tech. He also played with Coach Skip Holtz at Louisiana Tech, so he knows the system, very familiar. And interestingly enough, he was the first quarterback that the Patriots got a hold of after Tom Brady's departure, right? So the Patriots were looking at all the free agent quarterbacks, all the draftees out there, and Jamar Smith was the first one they took. And judging by his tenure in the his tenure in the USFL, they were probably not wise to let him go. So Jamar Smith looking to help the Birmingham Stallions repeat. Of course, C.J. Marnable back, along with a number of others on that championship team. So, some people who might not be back on that championship team is their MVP quarterback, Alex Magoo. Alex Magoo very notably signed with Green Bay this offseason to go and compete for the backup job there. He ultimately didn't win that backup job, but he stuck around on Green Bay's practice squad all year and did well enough that they actually signed him to a futures deal after their season was over and they were eliminated from the playoffs. So Alex Magoo, as of right now, staying in Green Bay. So it looks like the USFL champions will not have their starting quarterback back, right? Which is interesting because the XFL champions, the Arlington Renegades, still don't have their championship-winning quarterback back. And when we're talking about the Arlington Renegades, we're talking about Spring League legend Luis Perez, who started in the AAF and now starred in the XFL. Luis Perez came in as a midseason acquisition for the Arlington Renegades, takes them to the championship game after a 4-win record helps them win that game, and so he's not back yet. He still hasn't been re-signed, and so that leaves XFL fans wondering, and Renegades fans wondering, what is next for Luis Perez? Could he sign with an NFL practice squad? Could he sign a futures deal with an NFL team? We'll have to wait and see. But one thing that seems apparent right now is he might not be back in Arlington. Speaking of quarterbacks in this new merged league, Cole Kelley was all set to be the starting quarterback for the Memphis Showboats, who survived the league cuts, and he looks like he might have some competition in the room. So Cole Kelley improved very much as the year went on last year after taking that starting job in Memphis. But now, in the dispersal draft, the Memphis Showboats have acquired Philadelphia Stars quarterback Case Cookus. Case Cookus, of course, another Spring League legend, and looking to come in and immediately compete for that starting job there in Memphis. Now, Memphis has probably one of the strongest quarterback rooms in the league because they also signed Troy Williams from the Pittsburgh Maulers. So if you're keeping track, that's Case Cookus, Cole Kelley, and Troy Williams, all competing for that job. Now, we're big fans of Cole Kelley. Cole Kelley, of course, another draft room alumnus on NFL Fan Blitz. But Case Cookus definitely seems to have the upper hand right now. Now, I firmly believe Cole Kelley can come in and make it an actual competition. I firmly believe Cole Kelley's athleticism, right, gives him a chance to win this starting job. But we'll have to see. Of course, new head coach in the building, right? It's not Todd Haley anymore. It's John DeFilippo that comes over from the New Orleans Breakers, and now he's the head coach in Memphis. So, new system. We're going to see how it works. Training camps opens up here in about 4 weeks, I think. So, we'll see how that goes in Memphis. But a very strong quarterback room, which is going to make for a very intriguing quarterback competition going forward. Of course, of another note, Cavante Turpin and Brandon Aubrey, two former USFL alumni, are doing very good in the NFL. Brandon Aubrey winning an All-Pro nod as a kicker this year after going 36 of 38. He was perfect until I think the last game of the season. But Brandon Aubrey, coming from the championship Birmingham Stallions to the Dallas Cowboys of the NFL, taking that starting job and running with it, becoming one of the most accurate kickers in his first year in the league. It's absolutely been amazing to watch. Cavante Turpin, of course, a dangerous returner and a dangerous catch-and-run receiver for the Cowboys as well. And not to be forgotten, on another Texas team, Khalil Davis, defensive tackle, right? He was signed by Houston from the USFL, and he has been balling out this year as well with a handful of sacks and a number of impact plays. It has been a joy to watch these guys in the NFL. Of course, another few, USFL players like Magoo and Davion Davis and people like that earning NFL contracts, but not so much playing time. But it's really been something to watch. So, UFL kicking off March 30th. We're all excited as heck to see it. This has been your UFL Weekly Newsflash. I'm your host, Matt Sparks. We'll see you next week.